usual, nothing is medical advice, only sharing for educational purposes. Today we have the pleasure to record our podcast with the incredible Dr. Nina Marie. We are going to talk all the things mineral during pregnancy and for children. Enjoy the episode. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into more holistic practice?
Yes, ma'am. So I actually began this journey when I became pregnant for the first time with my son. Prior to that, I was kind of interested in understanding nutrition, but not so much. I took a class, a childbirth class. And on the very first day of that class, it was 3 months long. You had to go once a week for 3 months. On the very first day, the instructor, she was a member at my husband and mine church. She shared about the importance of why eating healthy food in pregnancy was important for the growth of your baby. And from there on out, I was like, oh gosh, I need to pay attention. I want my baby to be healthy. I want, strong bones, great brain. I just was immediately convinced that how I was living was not sufficient, not only for my own health, but for the health of the child that I was carrying and my future children.
Can you tell us how do you look for mineral imbalances and what tests do you run for this?
Yeah, so normally I am running a hair tissue mineral analysis, and this is something that I do with all of my children that I'm working with in clinic. It's a bare minimum test, I should say. So I work with moms, I work with children. Sometimes moms also want to bring dad along. The main basic test that we run is the hair tissue mineral analysis. The reason for that is because it shows us how the body is utilizing minerals over the previous 3 to 4 months. And this is probably a better understanding, let me not say better, a clearer understanding over blood chemistry, because it shows you more of a storage and usage and how the body puts minerals in different places, where blood tests only tell you what's in circulation, what could be used, but also what could be eliminated, what could be detoxed out. And so I look through HTMA for my children, or for my clients, I should say, because we see more than just children, in order to understand their stress response. It gives us information on blood sugar management. It gives us information on their metabolism. Children should have a fast metabolic rate. And oftentimes we see on their tests that it's actually slow, which is not helpful because growth and development requires fast metabolism. In childhood, you need a really long phase of growth and development. Using the HTMA lets us look at a lot of different health aspects.
What are the main mineral deficiency that you see in children today?
There's such a wide possibility. So I have some children where you see something called a 4 lows pattern. So there are many mineral elements on an HTMA test. The first 4 are calcium, magnesium, sodium, and potassium. They're part of your macro minerals. So we need a lot of these. When we have a 4 lows pattern, this often tells you that the body is under immense stress, has poor absorption, and does not have what it needs to operate optimally. Minerals are involved in every physiological process in the body. It's involved in neurotransmitter production. It's involved in being able to sleep. It's involved in digestion and hormonal production, even in your immune response. And so if we are low on minerals, every single part of our body is going to be affected in some way. And so the 4 lows pattern is something that I've been seeing with children, which is concerning because you should not have a 1-year-old or even 6-month-olds that I've seen in this very depleted state. I have seen others where their levels are in a really great place, but we've got high heavy metal toxicity, so many metals present, and then that's going to displace minerals in the body. It will affect all of your physiological functions where those minerals are needed. So it truly depends on geographical location sometimes. How is mom's stress levels and repletion of minerals in her pregnancy? How is she doing if they're breastfeeding? So there's many factors that will determine what kinds of patterns we see in our child's mineral test.
Okay, so those children, they are mainly depleted because they have a high load of heavy metal?
That may be one factor. It may also be that they did not receive enough minerals in pregnancy or through breastfeeding if mom does not have enough. It may not be that mom just didn't have enough to pass on. Maybe mom had a lot of metals. Maybe the child has some sort of pathogen or immune load present. So environmental toxins can stress the body, can block absorption. So it's not just metals that would cause low levels.
Okay. So that was actually my next question about like if the mom is deficient during pregnancy, then is the child is going to be deficient also?
It is very likely. So I don't want to say a resounding yes because there are two possible things that could occur. If mom's levels are low, the body is going to prioritize the growth and development of the baby at the expense of mom. So it is possible that if she's eating really well in pregnancy, that most of those elements will go to baby and then she gets what's left over. And so her baby may still have pretty good balanced levels or not as low as hers. So that's a possibility. The other possibility is I have seen pregnant women start with me in their first trimester in a 4 lows pattern. And we work really hard at remineralization throughout pregnancy. And in the third trimester, right before labor and delivery, we see those levels come up. And we know that in pregnancy, this is a very stressful demand. There is a stressful demand on mom, and most of those minerals will go to baby first. So the illustration I often use is that you could think of your body as a grocery store and all of your nutrients are on the shelves. What you're eating is replenishing those shelves, and your baby's going to come and take, and you have to keep paying back to restore what's on the shelves. And so in pregnancy, there's a lot of taking off the shelves, but there's also the opportunity to restock them faster. And so I've seen with very intense focus and ensuring that we're eating enough and getting enough of those levels, tracking them, where those levels actually go up in pregnancy, meaning that that baby will have enough. But if there isn't this tracking, if there isn't that focus to make sure that moms are eating enough or getting what they need, then we have the possibility that we don't have enough to pass on, because about 10%, 4 pounds of mom's minerals are given to her baby in pregnancy. And it's a lot of minerals. So think about your 7 pound baby that was born. A lot of that is minerals.
Yes.
And so if we don't have enough, we're passing on either insufficient levels, or when the body has heavy metals present, stored in our bones, in our teeth, in our tissues, that is what is extracted and passed on instead. So there's a possibility that we don't pass on enough minerals, and there's a possibility that we actually pass on heavy metals in their place.
Wow, okay. It's funny that you are saying this because when I was pregnant with my son, my postpartum was so hard. My pregnancy was totally fine, but my postpartum period was so hard because I was feeling so depleted. So my son, I know that my son has a little bit of mineral deficiency, but it's nothing crazy. Like it's really manageable. But I could tell that myself after giving birth, like my minerals were so low because I was sure that I had given everything to my son and nothing was left for me.
That often happens with parents. And so this is why I often let clients know who are trying to conceive. I will say it's really great if you can take 6 months to a year before actively trying to conceive, to not only, think about like potential eradication of pathogens or anything like that, but to consider making sure that the body is ready for the demand of pregnancy. Pregnancy is a stressor. It's a good stressor. It's a beautiful stressor, but it's a stressor nonetheless. And if we are not in a place where the body has an appropriate stress response, then we just become ultimately depleted. Our body only has one physiological way to respond to stress. And so whether the stressor is pregnancy, whether the stressor is sitting in traffic, whether the stressor is made up and we just think it's a stressor, it's the same way that we would respond as if we were running from a bear. And so we want to make sure that the body has the capability to run from that bear, even if the bear is time to get pregnant. Spending some time to ensure that there are nutrient stores prepared for the work that the body has to go through in pregnancy is so important. There was a study, I don't know how many years ago now, that compared the metabolic expense of pregnancy to marathon runners. And so they were showing that the rate of metabolism in pregnancy increases so much. It's like you're running a marathon every single day. And so you're literally just sprinting the whole 9-10 months that you're pregnant. And that's why you have to increase your caloric consumption. That's why weight gain is so important, is because you're using so much more energy you're using up so much more energy because we're building a whole other human being. We're building a cardiovascular system. We're building a skeletal system. And so that metabolic rate needs to increase in order for both mom and baby to be healthy. And the comparison was made that if the metabolic rate had increased any more, it would be too much for the human body to handle. And so it's just at the cusp of what the human body can handle. And so again, take 6 to 12 months before getting pregnant to make sure that your body can run a marathon every day for 40 weeks or whatever it might be.
And this is something that doctors don't actually talk about. Like we don't hear doctors say, hey, before getting pregnant, you should prepare for this. It's not because you can get pregnant tomorrow that it should happen. Because for me, example, like I didn't even try and I got pregnant. So we were thinking about having a baby, and I was also thinking about I'm going to take some time and I'm going to prepare my body and I'm going to go into this pregnancy being like totally healthy with everything that I can do, but I didn't have time to prepare. But people should, like talk about it and how important it is, because then my postpartum period was so hard after this, and it took me, honestly, my son is like 3.5 years old, and it took me like a good 3 years to say, wow, okay, I'm starting to feel better now because I was so depleted.
This is where some individuals would say pregnancy spacing can be important because it gives you the time to let your body prepare for pregnancy again. And so I mentioned that to say there is weight to considering what your body can handle. One of the things that I share with moms that I work with is your metabolism in pregnancy is supposed to get faster. And so in mineral testing, there's a specific balance that you want between calcium and phosphorus, which helps us understand how fast or how slow our metabolism is. And I could not tell you how many women are coming in wanting to get pregnant or even into pregnancy with extremely slow metabolic rates. And that will impact their ability to extract nutrients from the food that they're consuming. It's going to impact how fast their thyroid is working in pregnancy, which is necessary for fetal brain development. And so you're spending time to ensure that your metabolism isn't too slow, that your thyroid's working great, that you have an appropriate stress response, that you know how to relax and not feel like you're go, go, go all the time, will position your body to have a less stressful pregnancy and a much better recovery, because not only is your body being used for the sustaining of the human life while pregnant, but if you choose to breastfeed, your body is still being used to sustain someone else's life. It's just outside of you now. And that takes a toll. That's why there's a caloric need, increased need in breastfeeding. And all of those things are then going to be extracted from your body to take precedence over your health for your baby's health. And so understanding that as amazing and beautiful as motherhood is, your body is going to be the money or the currency that you're using for motherhood. You lose sleep. There's so many things that must be given up that then take a toll on your body. And so ensuring adequate nutrition, eating enough, etc., is going to be so key for your ability to continue to be mom, or be the mom you want to be the wife that you want to be. There's so many moms who come to me like, I'm so short and snippy and irritable all the time now, and I wasn't like this before. That tells me your body is under such severe stress and has been for so long. You need to work on repleting all of those things, because there are minerals that help calm you down and they're missing.
Absolutely. And, like I felt it when I was breastfeeding my son, the lack of sleep, and I didn't have enough milk. It was complicated. So I had to pump all the time and wake up at night when my son was sleeping to pump. So it was hard. So if the mom is depleted during pregnancy, and then of course she's going to be depleted during postpartum, and I know that we should prepare before, but if she didn't have time to prepare, what can she do? So there is certain thing, like you said, she can do during pregnancy, but if she's not doing it during pregnancy, is there anything that she can do during the postpartum period, like food that she should eat, like supplement that she should take?
Yeah, so this is where I work with moms and babies together. And this helps me to see, mom, where are your nutrient levels at? And then where are baby's nutrient levels at? And I'm able to support mom, especially if she's breastfeeding, considering what she needs and then what's going to be passed on to baby in breast milk. And so testing is so important to know what are the exact nutrients we need to focus on. Oftentimes I have clients tell me, I feel so much better when I am dairy free, and their calcium levels are almost non-existent on HTMA test. The calcium in our body works as a sedative. And so oftentimes what we are getting from calcium that helps to like calm us down. There are people who love cheese and just feel good eating cheese. I think part of that is the calcium that you're getting from it because it is a sedative to your central nervous system. And so some people might need more calcium, other people might need more magnesium. At the end of the day, if testing is not possible, the number one recommendation that I could give is to ensure that you have a variety of food instead of limiting. There's so many moms who are limiting what they're consuming, sometimes for the sake of their baby that they're breastfeeding. Having a diverse diet is going to be so key, and that will ensure that you have as many nutrients as possible. And not just that, because I can easily tell you, oh, I think every mom should have magnesium. I think that's true, yes. But what's better than going and finding a magnesium supplement on the shelf is, even if there is less magnesium in our food today, when we eat food that is rich in magnesium, it is also coming with other cofactors or other nutrients that help the body use that magnesium.
Absolutely.
And so, yes, a magnesium supplement on the shelf can be helpful to calm you down and get to sleep tonight, but it doesn't have the other things that the body would do best in utilizing it. So a wide variety of foods in your diet is key to ensure that we have those synergistic nutrients as well. That would be step one. Step two would then be, okay, let's test and see what do you actually need, and then develop something from there. I work with a lab in Canada that we can create a supplement based on your results so that you just have one thing that you have to track. It has all of the nutrients that you need. Think of it as like a prenatal that has a ton of things in it.
Oh,
Yes, we just put what you need, or we give you the basics that we know we need in pregnancy, plus the additional things that your tests are showing you need more of. And that just ensures what you are taking is made for your body. And that's going to help your body stay healthy in pregnancy and then stay healthy in postpartum as well.
that is really cool, because usually with a lot of practitioners, when you start with those tests and everything, you end up with a bunch of supplements, and you have 15 supplements to take like 3 times per day, and it's just unmanageable.
It is. And so in utilizing a customized blend, you're able to just take something twice a day. Now, it is a customized blend that has a lot of things in it. So your one time a day might be several capsules at once.
Absolutely, but it's more convenient.
It's one thing. Yes, exactly right.
That taking 15 pills 3 times per day is just like something I always hated, and it was always hard for me to tell people, yeah, you should do it, because I know how hard it can be to just implement that on a daily basis.
And sometimes following these extensive protocols with 17 supplements becomes a stressor for mom. Now I have to track all of these things.
Absolutely. I tried, during my postpartum period, I tried, and I ended up, like I said, with 15 supplements, take to, like 3 times a day, and I couldn't do it because it was more stress from this whole thing that I had to take than, and at the end of the day, it was not worth it.
And it doesn't help. So it just puts more stress on the body, which means you're burning through more minerals. And so it's not going to be supportive for your end goal of getting better. And so making a simplified plan in pregnancy and in postpartum is going to be the most beneficial thing over a million supplements any day.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So now I wanted to talk a little bit about how does mold impact children, because I lived in Miami for 10 years, and I know that, so in US, there is mold everywhere, something that we actually don't encounter in Europe because the constructions are not the same. The house are not in wood, like it's concrete. So we don't have mold in our house. So it's not a big deal like it is here. And especially in Miami. So I lived there for 10 years. I saw so many houses, apartments, like with black mold and kids living in there and parents and having issues. So can you tell us a little bit the impact of mold on children?
Yeah, so there are I've worked with many children and many who have had mold toxicity or mold illness. One of the first things that I think about are like candida and eczema. Those are really common responses to mold illness or mold toxicity. There might be asthma or breathing problems, constant nasal congestion, lingering coughs. There could be, in children especially, the toxins that mold creates will impede our body's anti-diuretic hormone. So diuretics make you pee. At night, we have anti-diuretic hormone at higher numbers to help the body not have to pee. And so this is what helps us was to not wake up in the middle of the night to go use the bathroom. So with children, a telltale sign of mold toxicity oftentimes is they were sleeping through the night and now they're bedwetting again. And so bedwetting can be a sign because our antidiuretic hormone gets suppressed when mold toxins are high. You may also see even seizures in some children. There have been a couple kids that I've worked with where mold made seizure disorders worse or was at the beginning of seizure disorders. So there's a whole host of potential health impacts that mold can have. It really depends how a child responds, depends on what their stress bucket already is, what their nutrient levels are. There's even a genetic component on how sensitive you might be to mold. There are some children that aren't sensitive at all. I've worked with families where one kid is heavily impacted and the other kid, there's no problem. And so you can see that sometimes even in families where it doesn't make sense. Why is this person so sick and no one else is? There's a susceptibility challenges from person to person. So there's a wide variety of possible concerns one might have that it just depends on different factors on what it'll look like. You even see a lot of food sensitivities happen or histamine intolerances. And so there's so many potentials when mold is in the mix.
Yes, absolutely. And what about the diet in general? And, like kids that are eating like high processed food, dyes, and that are exposed to pesticides and chemicals, how does that reflect on their body and what can happen?
Yeah. So when we have high processed foods, we lose a lot of important nutrients. For example, a lot of soda is going to, because it has not just the sugar, like even thinking about the carbonation is going to be higher in phosphoric acid, that phosphorus will bind to magnesium. And so it's going to deplete magnesium. Now let's think about sugar. When we're consuming sugar in its non-whole food form, it depletes the body of magnesium. If my math is correct or if my memory is correct, when we have magnesium let me rephrase. When we are consuming whole food sugar, so sugar from like fruits and vegetables, every glucose molecule is attached to like 30 something magnesium molecules because it requires that much magnesium for the human body to process that glucose molecule. When we are consuming a food where there's added sugars like white sugar, cane sugar, even raw cane sugar, because it has been processed, all of that magnesium was lost. And so it now depletes magnesium from our body in order to process the glucose that we're consuming. So when we have soda, we're losing magnesium because of phosphorus, because it'll bind to it, and we're losing magnesium because of the high fructose corn syrup or whatever sugar was being used. And so one drink alone, which is, I think the age group 14 to 17 in the United States is the age group that drinks the most soda in comparison to all other age groups. They're losing so much magnesium and they're losing so much sleep because of all of their sports and homework and all of the things that their health is negatively affected because of that. You see mood disorders, anxiety increase. Even in smaller children, you'll start to see hearing sensitivity where they don't want to hear loud sounds or noise sensitivity. And so there's many effects that could have, just a processed food like soda, on human health. Then you mentioned food dyes. So food dyes can bind to minerals specifically in the human body. I know that yellow number 5, yellow number 6, red number 40, they have something called the sulfonic acid group that will bind to calcium, magnesium, zinc, and iron, I think the other one is. And so when we don't have calcium, magnesium, or zinc, those are our top 3 sedative minerals. So they help calm the central nervous system. They help the body produce melatonin. They help the body with neurotransmitter production like dopamine or serotonin because they're necessary cofactors in conversions. And so seeing just food dyes present in food, we now have these behavioral issues with attention deficit disorder, with irritability, problems with focusing, aggressiveness. All of that can become impacted because of the binding to minerals that food dyes may have. So processed foods are going to affect sleep, behavior, outcomes in school, how well they're doing. It can lead to skin disorders, constipation. There's so many potentials for negative health impacts when we're not eating a whole foods diet.
So basically, if you are drinking a glass of Coke, you should get like a little bit of magnesium after that.
A lot of magnesium, yes.
A lot of magnesium. Yeah, that I didn't know about this. This is fascinating. And so what product do you use to balance those minerals?
It depends. So there are different brands of supplements that I like. With children, I'm looking for liquids or powders as much as possible so that it's easy to hide in their food if they're picky eaters. If your child can swallow capsules, then we can try utilizing capsules because that's way more, it's much more simple, I should say. But as I mentioned before, depending on your lab results, we can work with the lab to create a customized blend, either for you or for your child, so that you don't have to worry about finding 17 different supplements that now takes you $300-400 a month to afford, where this is much more affordable over the long term. And it's just one thing that you have to monitor for you or your child. And so there are few cases where I don't utilize a customized blend. So there are some that I have very sensitive clients to, and so if I use something like a blend and they don't respond well, I don't know what ingredient in that blend they're not responding well to. So there's some things that I take into account. If I think it's better to do individual, then we will. And we usually just add one thing in at a time. But generally, most of my clientele, we do the custom blend for them.
And what are the improvements that you see when balancing those minerals?
Yeah. I actually just had a call with a parent right before this interview. She came to me because her daughter was eating non-food items. She started chewing on her shirt, eating like erasers, pencils, things like that. She was having emotional outbursts. She was having challenges sleeping, picking at her fingernails and biting her fingernails and fingers. And so we did mineral balancing. And today she told me within 3 days of one of the supplements we brought in, we did the custom blend and a couple things on the side. Her daughter's emotional outbursts were gone. We also brought in some parasite things because of other labs. In bringing that in, her sleep was transformed. She sleeps through the night. She's not coming into her parents' room multiple times a night. Her picky eating is much better. It's not perfect. I think this 5-year-olds, you're still going to have some picky eating, but she wasn't eating anything before. She just wanted the non-food items. She's now eating chicken. She's now eating steak where she didn't want protein at all before. And so you can see picky eating resolved when we have the right minerals, because there are different minerals involved in our taste buds. Zinc, for example, this is why I'll mention here, you see like post a cold or even COVID, many people lost their taste perception, and zinc is what helps to bring that back, because there's a huge role that zinc has in your taste buds ability to censor different types of flavors. So bringing in the appropriate elements like zinc can help with picky eating. Oftentimes kids just don't have appropriate taste, and so all food just tastes weird to them, and that's why they don't want to eat it. They prefer the bland beige foods, the crackers, the rice and mashed potatoes, and that's it, because they understand that one and not anything else. We see constipation resolve. It's just minerals that they need to bring into their diet, and it resolves. Sometimes there's more things going on in the gut and protocols might be needed. I have kids with ADHD who are able to I have kids with ADHD who do not respond well to medication, and bringing in minerals and other, maybe a couple vitamins and things would be beneficial to them. And they have a huge change in school where mom was getting constant emails before, and within a month, what are you doing? He's so much better. He's so much calm. He's a different person. I have seen children with seizures have their seizures diminish. I have seen children with failure to thrive or growth abnormalities. They're not getting taller. They're staying small. They're not gaining weight. They're able to see that shift because we bring in the appropriate elements and foods. And so as I mentioned before, minerals are involved in every physiological process. And so if there is a concern that you may have for you or your child, it's possible that minerals aren't the silver bullet you want, but they will be involved at some capacity. And so because they help the body repair, they help the body grow and develop, the brain to make the right neurotransmitters, they are always a part of what I am doing. Oftentimes that's all you need to hone in on, because you give the body what it needs to be able to operate well.
Wow, this is incredible. And all of that just with mineral.
Yes, it's possible.
It's incredible. Again, this is something that we don't talk about, that doctors don't talk about, but it's something that we should talk about, because like you said, it might not be something magical, but it's going to help for sure, to get better. With autistic children, is there like particular imbalances that you see with them that are different than with other kids?
Yes. So I almost all, can I say always? I think I can say always. I always see heavy metals present in very high levels with the children that I've worked with that have autism spectrum disorder.
Could you point at one that you see?
Yes. Yes. Lead and cadmium are two big ones, and they displace really important calming sedative minerals that help your brain with neurotransmitters. I also often see copper toxicity in children that often can be because of something called pyroluria. And so this is where you would hair tissue mineral analysis can give us a clue into pyroluria because of high copper levels, but you would need a secondary test. It's a urine sample that's sent to the lab to measure pyrroles. And that happens if pyroluria is present. We cannot utilize zinc and vitamin B6 at the appropriate rates. And those two elements are needed, or those two nutrients are needed for copper metabolism. And so sometimes it's not that we have too much copper in diet or copper exposure, is that we actually have a potential genetic component for an imbalance with zinc and B6 that you need high doses of that to keep that in check. So there's nutrient imbalances. I often see a very high stress response in kids with autism spectrum disorder. There's patterns for constipation often with kids with autism spectrum disorder. But I've also seen kids with autism where their mineral test, well, I will say that this is the exception and definitely not the rule, that their mineral test looks fine, quote unquote fine. Like there aren't too many imbalances. There aren't many heavy metals. So it is possible that minerals are in a really great place. And what actually needs to take place is some digestive supports or digestive eradication protocol. But every kid that I've worked with autism has some level of heavy metals or mineral imbalances.
Can you tell us now how can people work with you?
Oh, that's so sweet. You can check out my website, drninamarie.com. It is the entire word doctor spelled out. Or you can find me on Instagram, same thing, Dr. Nina Marie. I have a group program for moms called Mineral Mom Method, and it includes an HTMA test for you. I am coaching you over 3 months through mineral balancing. And then I have a group program for parents for their kids called Minerals and Kids. Same thing, an HTMA test for one child. And if you have multiple children, it's only a $99 addition to add your other children to that program, so that you can have their test done. We can review it, go to protocols together. That way, whether you're a mom, whether you're a child, we're able to work on minerals and empower you to be able to do that on your own, because both programs are teaching you mineral interpretation, because I want to be able to empower families to do this for themselves. I have seen such wonderful changes, not only in my clients, but in my own family as we mineral balance with my children. And so to be able to give that access to a family to not be dependent on a provider is a passion of mine. So you're learning mineral balancing in either of those programs. You're learning what each level does for early childhood development or infant health and development or adolescence in Minerals and Kids, or for fertility and women's health and pregnancy and postpartum in Mineral and Mom, so that when you come back to get a retest later, you don't need me to interpret for you. You know exactly what the test is telling you, and you know exactly what you need to do because I'm showing you how to build those protocols yourself too.
No, that's great. That's exactly the same thing that I'm doing in my community. Because I'm so tired of people like being dependent on practitioner, and that I wanted to share with them something where they can actually learn, like learn from themselves, learn for their family, and be able to be independent. So this is exactly the same thing that I'm sharing. Be able to do it without anyone.
It's such a pleasure to be able to do that as well. And I really do think that health belongs in the hands of the person who is pursuing health.
Exactly.
And so if I can empower you with how to ask the right questions of your healthcare provider, if I can empower you to know how to read a test result, that is my goal at the end of the day.
Same thing here. We are really on the same page. It's very nice. And I know that you know a little bit about homeopathy. So is it something that you are using at home with your clients also?
Oh, yes. I use homeopathy at home. It's my first line of defense in anything that happens here at home. It's often all we need here. I use homeopathy with clients, especially infants. So when we're working through things, that's my first line of defense. Herbs would be second, and then nutraceuticals would be third. And then I also teach families how to understand the vaccine schedule here in the United States. What are in vaccines? What are the potential risks of any potential injection? And an alternative to that is homeoprophylaxis. So I teach you the science behind homeopathy for supporting the immune system against specific pathogens that you might be concerned for. And then you have access to the nosodes. The nosodes are actually mailed to you in your registration to be able to use with your children in place of the vaccines that your medical provider may be offering.
I love homeoprophylaxis.
Yes.
We actually just started with my son, and we are actually going to go through it.
That's
So
wonderful.
I wanted something that is non-toxic, that has zero risk, that is something that is wonderful.
Yeah. In the vaccine alternative, you get a whole kit, and it is for 2 children. So the kit is so that you can have at least 2 of your children to use the homeoprophylaxis, and it's for the first, it's like a 3-year program, I think, 2 or 3-year program to go through together. It's just 1 dose a month, and you're helping to train the immune system and support it to be able to respond positively, to give, if you ever come in contact with the wild virus or wild bacteria, so that your body can be fine and not need any other outside help.
Absolutely. That is so important. And actually, I just started recording a series called Informed Consent, where I'm going over all the vaccine, like schedule and
That's wonderful.
vaccine by vaccines with like the side effects, the ingredients and everything. Like it's something that, again, people don't talk about, and parents need to be able to make an informed decision. They need to know what's in the vaccine, how the body processes those vaccines, so important. And that there is also other options instead of just regular vaccines. So yeah.
That's correct.
And I know that you have created a software, an AI software for practitioner. Is this something you want to talk a little bit about? Because honestly, I'm like so eager to hear more about it.
Yes, if you are a practitioner, I created a software for you to be able to use with ChatGPT to interpret labs.
This is so cool.
It is my favorite thing. I just finished today the part for interpreting blood chemistry, and so I was testing it earlier this morning, and I absolutely love it because it's making my life easier.
Wow.
And so what it does is I'm teaching you how to train the software to interpret things the way you do, because each practitioner has specific supplements that they like to use, or each practitioner is looking at specific patterns. And so instead of me training it the way that I look at it and then you having to go and make edits anyway, I show you how to do it for yourself. And then and I give you the exact instructions, and I show you where this is where you're going to put in your information and what information you need to put in, so that when you go, all you have to do is upload screenshots of your client's results, and it will create a report for your client where it says, this is the marker, this is what the marker is, was it in range, was it out of range, and how is it relating to your concerns specifically. And it does that for each one. And then it gives you a summary on how all of the tests relates to your client's concerns or health goals. And then there's a way for you to train it to create protocols the way that you do. And so your next step it'll ask you, like, are you ready to create a protocol? You've already put the instructions in on what you want to do for specific things, that it will then take your client's results, create a protocol the way that you would. And then you're reading over it. You're making sure it's correct. You always want to double check things. And I get my clients' lab results in less than 10 minutes with a report and a protocol, where it used to take me 30 to 60. And so being able to streamline that has been wonderful.
I'm a little bit frightened by AI, but this is one of the AI part that I actually love. This is just so wonderful. And so, if practitioner wants to be able to work with this software, so they reach out to you on your website, same thing.
Yes, I'll send you the links that they can check it out for themselves.
Absolutely.
I just want everyone to know that you must show me proof of licensure, training, etc. before you get access. So once you register, there's a potential 2-day lag. I usually get it done in an hour, where you send in your licensure, your certificates, and I'm going to double check it before I give you full access to everything, because I want to make sure that those who are using this are trained in those labs.
Absolutely.
And I love being able to empower people, but I also don't want to give power where power shouldn't be given.
Absolutely. That's great. Well, it was amazing to have you with us today. And thank you so much for being here. And it was a wonderful podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. See you soon. Bye.